tell us the difference between the roles of a real estate agent and a real estate negotiator.
Actually, the role is the same. That means they hold the same responsibility. The only difference is that the real estate agent is the one who has gone through the process of qualifying, and he has gone through the exams and gone through 2 years of practical, and then he has got the approval, the authority to practice, certificate of authority to practice by the board of real estate agents, and so he's a registered one with the board, and therefore he has the authority to practice and run an agency. And he will employ some staffs to work for him, and those sales staffs or sales property agents are considered as or named as a negotiator, and so therefore when you engage a property agent, you are actually dealing with the agency, and the registered estate agent will then assign the duty to the negotiator, and he in turn will provide the services that is required to the principal or to the buyers or to the sellers.
But at the end of the day, is the real estate negotiator the one that seals the deal?
Oh yes, he'll be the one doing the legwork and running around, dealing with buyers, doing the negotiation, and so his responsibility is just the same as the one you call a property agent.
Okay, so now let's get in straight to our topic of discussion for today. So, what are some of the key, in inverted commas, of course, due diligence processes a seller and a buyer should perform before selling or purchasing a property? Let's start off with a buyer.
Okay, for a buyer, if you say due diligence, then therefore he has to make sure that he is really in the exercise itself. He will have to go and inspect the property that he wants to buy. Of course, that will mean that going the length and breadth of the property and to make sure that he is seen enough to make a decision. Of course, during the inspection itself, he would have to look at the things that whether the house fits his requirements, things like the features of the house, like how many rooms and the sizes, and what kind of kitchens they have. And he may want to look at the facilities, like what is available in the kitchen, or for that matter, any swimming pools and all that. And in some cases, he may want to look at the direction of the house, which side it is facing, or what kind of views you can get from there. So of course he would have to check out on the pricing, that he may get a feel of it after seeing a few properties, and then he may consult his bankers or even some valuers, or even the property agents or the negotiators themselves can give them an idea of what kind of pricing or what kind of market rate there is.
If he's buying an existing property, should he do a search on whether the property has any caveats or whatsoever?
This is more on the legal side. Of course, he has to look into that. He can get the help of his lawyer to do that, to do a search for him and to check on to check whether the title is free of encumbrances, if it is not charged to the bank, or if there's no any conditions that he cannot sell the property or cannot transfer the property. So these are things that he needs to check on the legal side of it, which his lawyer will be able to help him on that.
All right. Then what about a seller?
As for the seller part, of course, he has to look at the legal side as well, to make sure that he can transfer the title or he can sell the property, because you have things like bumi lots, where you cannot sell to a non-bumi, and you have like Malay reserve where you cannot sell it to a non-Malay, and those kind of things that he has to make sure that he can sell the property. And of course, on the property side, maybe like if you're talking about residential, then he may want to look into things like whether he wants to sell it lock, stock, and barrel, or you want to sell it together with the fittings that comes with it. And maybe he wants to do a bit of touch-up before he sells. So these are the things that he needs to do to prepare himself to sell the property.
Now, talking about touching up a place, does it actually help, raise the price of the property if a seller actually enhances, do a coat of paint, put in some nice soft furnishing? Some people even say that, if you're having a view, there's some potential buyers coming for a view. They say bake something because the smell of baked smell in the house makes people very inviting.
Yeah, looks like you've been doing some reading. First of all, you want to make sure that the house that you want to sell, it has the feel and the look that is habitable.
It's that lived-in feel, is it?
That's right.
Yeah, okay.
That's right. You don't want to buy a cave and gives you the kind of feeling that you don't want to stay, so you want to do something like you said, a coat of paint and maybe a bit of tightening up of some screws, some small repairs to make it look habitable. So that you don't get buyers or prospective buyers coming into the house, walking in and walking out, then if he does that, then the property really turns him off. So you want to make sure that you touch up. You just may have to spend a few $1,000s, from a few hundred to a few $1,000s, depending on the kind of property. That will enhance the value of the property for another $20,000 to $50,000 dollars. That you can gain back. If you don't do that, then you probably get offers that are very lower, and then people want to depress your pricing, the value of your property and all that.
And what actually determines the selling price then, William?
Well, the selling price is, of course, when you come to an agreement between a buyer and seller, technically that's the selling price. And so you got a willing buyer, you got a willing seller, and they have both agree on the price. So that's the selling price.